Welcome back to my studio in Irene. It's Claire. You can see my hands, but not more of me today. I thought I'd give you a break of my face. So in the last month, we have been looking at some of the more unusual shaped rulers and templates that you can get. I started off with a half-carat diamond, and last week Talene showed you some designs using her favorite mini oval. And today I thought I would have a bit of a play with the with the triangle template from Handy Quarter. So it's a little template with two triangles on it, and again, it's one of those slightly more gimmicky ones, and until you start to really play with it, you don't necessarily know what you can do, what the possibilities are. So I've been having a bit of a play, and I want to show you a couple of options of what we can do. To make it a little bit more easy for you to see, I have marked this one with some darker lines. They just correspond to the etched lines on the rulers anyway, but it's just to help you be able to see a little bit better. I'm going to be drawing using my design wheel just to simulate how the needle would actually be positioned with the foot within that template. Okay, so the first line that I have up here is a 1 1/4 inch sashing simulated. So let's see what we can do. If I put my needle over the line and I put my ruler up against it, I'm basically lining up this line with my piecing line, with the sashing line. So I can go along, stop with my needle down over here. Let me keep my pen there, then it shows you better. Slide the ruler along, line up this line again, keep going. Slide the ruler along. Okay, so you see you can get a nice zigzag line here. So yes, you could do it with a straight ruler and keep changing, but then you'd need additional marking lines to tell you where to hit those points. So this one is actually quite cool. So this is actually a right angle triangle here, and it gives you that sort of slightly shallower kind of a diamond shape. If I use the other triangle, it's basically the same thing. This one gives me a slightly steeper diamond triangle. So this is a 1 1/2 inch sashing. And again, every time I'm just lining up this thicker line that I've marked here in my pen, just with the sashing line of my piecing. So every time I stop with when I'm actually stitching, stop with your needle down. Then you have no excuse for the machine moving and not keeping your point for you. Okay, so at its very basic, you can use those triangles to give you like a chevron. If I came back in the opposite direction, then I would get like a diamond pattern rather than just the teeth. At its very basic, this is enough. If I have stitched in the ditch on the sashings and then I've stitched that down, it's going to hold the layers of my quilt together, so it's not a problem. If I want to put in more detail, then again, that's when I can start to do it. Now I have my foundation of the design, I can go in and do whatever I want. So I can put in, like we've done previously, maybe I just want to put in up and down lines. So I'm going to create texture by flattening one area of the design and letting the other area stand up. So that these triangles that I'm stitching in now will become flat, and the ones that have no stitching in will puff up. So they will be all puffy. So as you go along, you can add your levels of detail if you choose to. And again, if you don't want to, you just leave it at the basic. That's also perfectly fine. Okay, let's have a look at another option. If I line up the center lines of my triangle over a center line on a sashing. So this is a wider sashing. This one's about 2.5 inches wide. So I've marked the center line. I would do that with chalk. And then I can just start. It does make a slightly smaller triangle, so it's not going to go right to the edge. And you see I went around 1 and a bit times. Keep my needle down, shift the ruler across. Line up the lines with my with my chalk lines. Keep the ruler against the foot, of course, that helps. And I go 1.5 times around each one. So this is simulating a flying geese kind of pattern, which is really cool. You can do some nice stuff with this. Let's try something else. On this sashing here, it is 3.5 inches wide. So I've chalked in the center line, and I'm going to try a different design. So again, I'm going to put my design wheel down, and when I start to quilt, I'm actually going to put my needle in and then hook my ruler over the top and position it. So I put my needle down exactly where I want to start. Okay, so let's see. If I start here, I can quilt once. Then if I spin my ruler and make sure that these lines that I have marked here are nice and vertical, I can go here, spin it round the other way, make sure those lines are vertical, and then go this way. I'm lining up now again my thick lines that show where it goes exactly through the center of the triangle. There. So let's go around. I'm going to spin this one around, line up my center lines, and go 1.5. Then I'm going to do the top one. With that one you get almost like a Maltese cross kind of shape. So this one can be pretty cool if you leave your triangles open and you fill in the background. I think you'd end up with a really nice looking border. It's a little bit more tricky maybe to fill. You might have to choose a better design than the one that I just chose, because that's not going to really work. But if you just, depending on how much time you have, if you did a micro fill around them, that you can actually fill in all these areas, then I think you could have a pretty cool design. So there you can see the difference between one that's filled and one that's not filled. This is going to work just as well in terms of holding your quilt together. This one is just going to give you more texture and more interest because you've got that much more quilting into it. Alright, at the bottom here I've actually tried something else. I used a wave ruler just to give myself a wave pattern, and I thought I'd try those flying geese on a wave. So this one actually comes out really nicely. What I'm going to do in this instance is I'm going to start at the point of the triangle. So if I put my needle down on the line, and this blue line is not stitched, it's only chalked. Okay, so you would chalk it on your quilt. I'm going to put my needle down and I'm going to make sure that the point of the triangle is pulled into the foot. And then I'm going to line up the other line, the opposite line on the across from the point, with my chalked line. And I'm going to do the same thing as before. I'm going to go 1.5 times around, hold my needle there in the down position and scoot across. If I push the foot into the point of the ruler here, and then I line up the back with the chalk line. I can zoom my way along here. So each time I'm using the stability of having the needle in the point here to allow me to then move on. And I just quilt up to the chalk line and stop with the needle on the line and reposition. So I really like the way that this one has that bit of a wave to it, and because I used a wave template to give me that curve, I know it's going to be consistent. I didn't use a drawing wheel because it's just to give me a consistent curve. I didn't need to draw it on my quilt with a drawing wheel. I can just use chalk and add it on. So this one I really like. I think it's really cool. And if you play with the steepness of the curve that you have, I think you'll also get quite cool effects. Okay, I don't know if you know it, but I like this book. It's, if I can get it in for you, it's sort of a take on New York Beauties and Flying Geese, but it's piecing. But I love the way that the flying geese go around in a circle. So it made me want to start to play. And I took to start with an oval. So this is one of the handy quilter ovals. It's the oval B. And I just drew around it. So on my quilt I would do it in chalk just to give myself that oval shape. Then I want to just play again using my triangles. So the same principle as on the wave. If you start with your needle down and you put the point of the triangle where your needle is, it seems to be just so much easier. All right, so then you're going to do that, and you're going to line up the other side, the thick line on the triangle, with the chalked line of your shape. So here we go. We're going to go 1.5 times and stop on the chalked line. Move along, 1.5, stop. What you'll see with this is it's very difficult to plan that you have exactly the right number of geese to complete your shape. So here where it is intended to join up, here you'll see there is a little bit of a gap that's different. These ones are all touching. Here I've got like a 3 or 4 millimeter gap. Depending on how OCD you are and how particular you are, that may bother you. I have found too that sometimes you end up with like enough space for half a triangle or a third of a triangle. So it would look very obvious if you tried to squeeze something in. So doing